The third size was the room that was ideal for both music and speech. So you have three different categories. You have the low side that's just acoustically bad for voice and music. So you can't even go there. Then you've got the middle that's good for voice. Then you've got the third side that's good for voice and music. So in the voice and music side, we have about 30% bad, about 30% in the middle, and about 40% ideal. So we've got a good blend of dimensions and structures. We can tell you what size is good. I can tell you how to build it. I can tell you what materials to use and how to arrange them. Tell me what kind of sound do you want in the room. Do you want really tight bass? Do you want a smooth flowing middle and high? We've got control, people. We have the technology today. I have the science to get you the sound that you want in your room. Spend a little time together, figure out what you want. And that's where my personal listening environment comes in. Because I will design that room and we'll just drop it in your existing room. You don't have to have a hammer or nail or nothing. It's about 9 to 10 tons of material. We'll create a room within a room. Tailor-made to your hearing, wants, and acoustic goals. But we have to do the whole four walls and the ceiling. Technology hasn't come far enough where I can just do one surface and make you happy and make me happy that you got the best job I could give you. Can't do that. I got to have 4 surfaces and a ceiling. I don't care about the floor. We'll work on the floor. Well, look, they have a little height, width, length chart that they fill in, that the customer fills in. And then you click a button after you enter the data, and then recommended packages come up. Okay. Well, how are these packages put together? Forget the level of performance of each product in the package. Let's just forget about that. But how do you take room size and then come up with a package, okay, that works in that room size, and the customer then believes that it works in that room size? That can't work. That can't even be possible. It can't even be close. Why can't it be? You don't even know what the usage of the room is. You don't know what pressure levels the customer is playing at. Does he like classical music? Does he like rock? What does he like? Each music has certain pressure levels that people listen to at. They don't never ask you how much energy are you going to put in the room, but yet they're going to recommend products that control energy, and they never ask you how much you're putting in. They assume things, okay, to sell products. I get that. Look, matching the room to the electronics, matching the room to the usage, matching the acoustical treatment to the room usage takes interviewing, takes discussing, asking questions, takes some readings, takes some measurements. You don't know the average pressure level you listen to music at? Send you a product, send you a meter. There's a phone app you can use to measure. We got to know how much energy we're putting in the room in order to treat the room, because what do we treat the room with? Energy absorbing and diffusing products. So we got to know how much and what type of energy we have in order to apply the correct treatment. One size does not fit all. It never does. Remember clothes that you bought that said that? You never wore them because they never fit, because they couldn't. So let's stop the nonsense a little bit here. Quit making it really so easy for customers to be so misled to sell something. Why do I go into room after room after room with all this products that I see on the marketplace, and they're asking me to come in and they don't like the way it sounds? What was missing in their purchase? What was missing in the original buying decision? Knowledge. Real knowledge. Knowledge about room size. It's important. I'm not dismissing it. It's very critical. But there's a lot of other variables that go with that. And you can't dismiss those variables. because it's those variables that must be satisfied before the customer is going to be happy with the sound quality. How do you know what the sound quality the customer wants if you don't ask? You're going to make an assumption? We don't do that here at Acoustic Fields. Not allowed. So we have a big sign on our desk, no assumptions. You ask questions and you get information. Then you apply. Everybody's room's different. Everybody's system's different. Maybe the system is mismatched for the room. Well, they didn't ask you that when you bought your package. Maybe your package is good for middle and high frequency absorption, but you've got 4 12-inch drivers in your system. Oops, didn't ask you that. So you're going to take this package, put it next to these 4 12-inch drivers, and hear no difference, but big difference in your bank account. So there are technologies out there that can solve real problems. You've got to find the companies that make those real technologies that solve real problems and use those. And realize that low energy problems and issues are never 100% satisfied unless you build a room that's 30, 35 feet long. You got to have half-wave length to get flat to 20 cycles. And let's stop going flat to 20 cycles. Let's use 30 cycles as our new benchmark. We just got 3 new rooms that we're designing, and they're all home theater rooms, and that's what they want. And they want it flat to 30 cycles. Well, we can do that. 20 cycles is really difficult, and that's okay. You couldn't really get a flat room down below 45 or 50 cycles until our stuff came out, to be quite frank about it. So we have the technology. We're getting closer. Takes a lot of units for low frequency, though. Don't. In a room that has a problem, below 40 cycles or below 50 cycles, you have to use 50% of the room surface areas or internal wall areas to solve the problem. I mean, let me stop right there. Not to solve, but to manage. Minimally. 75% of the room surface is much better. In our absorber wall, that's where that came out. You can actually build our activated carbon technology through our licensing agreement into your walls. And studio builders, you should be doing this. You're using a lot of space today to solve 30, 40, 50 cycle issues. I can do it for you in 12 inches. And weight's not a factor in a new build because we're building on concrete structures. You're going to have more mass, more density in your walls. Get that nice balance between flexibility and rigidity. That's the goal. Well, look, there has to be a budget, obviously, for gear and room acoustic treatment. Let's use those 2 as our variables, okay? You must spend more money on room acoustic treatment and room size and acoustics than you do gear. That's the first paradigm shift everybody has to make. Or if you spend a lot of money on your gear, realize that this is really good gear. The designers and engineers of this gear put a lot of time and effort to get good sound out of the gear. That's why you paid a good price. You paid for all that R&D time, and you should pay. Believe me, I put $2 million into my technology. I just hope and pray one day I get that money back. You know, so the bottom line here is, look, find the balance. What quality level of sound that you require? If you're monitoring and mixing, the top quality you got to have. You got to be able to hear everything in your mix. If it's just playback or listening, maybe you're not so critical. Good sound stage, nice definition, and maybe you don't need more direct than reflected energy, more room sound than speaker sound. Maybe you don't in a listening environment. It's all about personal preference. And that personal preference drives the room treatment that you do. Now, room treatment is expensive. So that's why we came up with our DIY kits. All our technologies, our low frequency absorption, our middle and high frequency absorption, and our diffusion technologies are available in drawings or kits. So this is why we address this, because room treatment products are very expensive. Just go on the net and look. Even foam is expensive, but you got to have them. So rather than as a manufacturer, which we do also, but give people the opportunity to have the technology, because we have it today, but have it in a price range and a budget that they can afford. They can build it themselves from drawings, or they can glue it together with a kit. Whatever your skill set level is, both will produce the same sound quality. Both will produce diffusion. Both will give you absorption. If you're good in the shop, build it yourself, because you're going to need a lot of units. And you can cut, if a production unit is $900 retail, you can do it in your shop for $200 with materials and your labor. It's a huge difference. And let's say you need 6 of those $900 units. That's $5,400. What? $5,400? Build them yourself for $1,200. See the difference? Now you got to have a shop, know somebody that does. You got to have some carpentry skills. These are build drawings, but they're from our prototypes. They're the best performers of all the prototypes that we use and don't use in our production series. Well, we use most of the things in our plans, but once again, we take them to the next level. Our BDA unit is our diaphragmatic absorber. It's got the dual front walls, the rigid cabinet, does not have the carbon on the inside. You got to buy the production unit. If you go to our website, you know that our production unit, the picture is the same. Except you notice in the production unit, there's an activated carbon filter sitting next to it. That's the big difference. And you got to pay for that. But you can get 75% of the performance of the production unit in the BDA unit itself. So you might need a few more units to achieve your result. But you can achieve your result. That's the main thing. The technology will solve problems. It will make big acoustical differences, big audible differences. And if it doesn't solve it completely for you, I will guarantee you this. It will reduce its nuisance value down to a point that you don't give it a second thought. With diaphragmatic absorption, the reason I used this was because of its power. It has lots of power. So it works in the areas in your room that are the highest pressure areas. It works on pressure. Does not work on air movement. It's not like a piece of foam that requires airflow through it to create heat through absorption. It doesn't work like that. It works on pressure waves. Okay? So it needs to be located. It's hungry for pressure. It needs to be located in areas of your room where the highest pressure area is. The highest pressure area is the distance between your speaker and the next closest structure, which is usually the front wall in a two-channel system. So placing one unit behind each speaker will make a huge difference in your sound stage. Okay? That said, where's our next highest pressure area? In the corner areas behind the speaker, because now we have multiple boundaries coming in, creating more traps, if you will. So those are your two areas. So to start and hear a huge, big difference in your low end, 4 units. And you can tune the amount of, here's the neat thing about diaphragmatic absorption. The closer you move it to the speaker, the tighter the bass response gets. Here's the neat thing about that. It can get so tight, it feels like you're hitting a wall. And it's that tight. And then you slowly loosen up. Then it becomes more like a bass player striking a low note on electric bass guitar. There's a tuning capacity. And with rear-ported speakers, it's really nice. So you can kind of tune the amount of low-frequency energy you want to absorb and not absorb to suit your taste. So on the low side, 4 units.